bless you with love and peace, and welcome to the
Making
Making
it
It
happen,
Happen, Take
taking
Action
action.
broadcast with your host and mentor, Barbara Herrard, co-host, Reverend A.W. Bush. Dear Lord, we come to you today thanking you for a blessed day. Thanking you for letting us see another Memorial Day weekend. Dear Lord, let our people know that they should not be violent. This is a loving holiday celebrating the United States. Dear Lord, let them know the real meaning of Memorial Day. It's not to kill. In your name, amen.
Amen. I'm going to read this morning the 121st Psalms from the Old Testament. I will lift up my eyes into the hills, from which cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, which made the heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee would not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not strike thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth, even forevermore. May God add a blessing to the reading and hearing of his word. Let us pray. Father God, we thank you. We thank you for life and the abundance of life. God, we just thank you. We thank you. God, we ask blessings on these United States, and we ask you to bless our leaders and give them wisdom and good decision making, and just bless them to with love, to love one another and to love others. God, we ask that you bless all the men and women serving in the armed services at home and abroad. Oh God, bless the men and women in blue and whatever color they wear in the law enforcement agencies and law enforcement everywhere in these United States of America. Especially bless the men and women in blue serving in the Detroit Police Department, oh God. And God, we ask that you have mercy on the minorities of any hues, many hues and colors in America. Oh God, lead them and give them gifts, strength and faith and hope, such that they can overcome the obstacles that are placed in their path, oh God. And we ask that you, oh God, have mercy on the leaders of the state of Michigan and the city of Detroit. Give them gifts to lead and let them not be selfish. Teach them to love and help the least of us. Oh God, we thank you for everything you do. In Jesus Christ's name, amen, and thank God.
Amen, amen.
Amen.
Good prayer, Reverend Bush.
Thank you, Mr. Rod.
Today, as we mentioned, we know we are at the beginning of the Memorial holiday, and we don't want to uh, wake up Tuesday and experience a lot of killing among families, loved ones in our city. Reverend Bush, what I see too often is, I guess it's black on black crime. It's
Well,
not other people doing us, it's we're
yes.
doing us. And I really can't understand why that is happening. I know our leaders talk about it, our pastors talk about it, our schools and administrators talk about it, and it's young and old. It's among families. Our little babies are being killed and uh, injured and paralyzed, and we just don't want that to happen on this joyous occasion we call Memorial Day.
You know, Mr. Rod, our people here in this city didn't learn that commandment, thou shalt not kill.
Apparently.
And in order to uh, obey that commandment, they have too much easy availability of guns. It's so
Mhm.
sad that
Mhm.
uh, anyone can buy a gun on the street, anywhere, anytime, any place. All you need is some money. Uh, I know that our black people don't control the gun selling. They don't bring these guns into this country. So somebody who is evil, led by the devil, with the greed of money is making these guns available for the greed of money. And of course, as a result of that, they're causing a lot of harm and danger and death in this city, all over this country. It's sad, but that's what they do. And our crossing that greed of money with one of the candidates who's running for office, it's not the money that's causing death and problems in this world and in this country and in this city. It's the greed or the love of money that's causing the problems and the love of violence and the need to have a gun. It's so sad that in order to do anything, we got to have a gun as part of the process. We used to didn't think like that, act like that, and then we get in a fight. Our relatives, our friends, our cousins, our neighbors, and they fight to death. They don't intend to let their opponent live. It's so sad and evil-minded. There's no love. It's full of hate. There's no godliness. It's full of Satan and the devil.
And you know what? You can call in. Let us know, your thoughts about all of this violence that's going on in our city. And we know God is the answer. We know those people that are doing it, young and old, have lost sight of who they are and really don't care about, what they're doing and who they're doing it to.
Mr. Rod, I was talking with one of the staff members here in the office prior to entering this studio, and we came to the conclusion, Mr. Rod, that it starts in the home and it starts with the parents. And the parents must take control of their home. They tell you you can't do this, you can't do that. But your job is to raise your child. And you use the tough love approach. You're responsible for that child. And so you don't let the law dictate how you raise your child. You got to do what it takes to prevent that child from doing wrong. And sometimes it requires some corporal punishment. And you're close to God and you love your child. You won't hurt your child, but you have to put fear in that child's mind and heart to know that it's not good to do wrong to anyone at no time. You you just got to follow and obey the rules. You obey the the elders. You obey authority. The people nowadays, our cousins, friends, and relatives, and hopefully it's sad, some of us elders and matriarchs and patriots don't abide by that principle. You you gotta be respectable to deserve respect. You gotta show love to get love. It's just that we just doing wrong everywhere, anytime, any place, anywhere.
And it's really sad. But on that note, uh, you know, I attended actually a very wonderful program at Marygrove College on this past Sunday. It was put on by the Loyola High School, and I don't know if our audience remembers. I guess about 3 months ago, we did have some very, very wonderful, talented young men from Loyola High School to come on the broadcast and talk about their goals and objectives and what they hope to be um, in their life, in their career, and they knew they had to have a good education.
You know what? And I love that, Mr. Roy. The parents, the mentors, the teachers, the preachers, they must instill uh, dreams or goals into the youth. When I was young, and I know many of you in the viewing audience were young, your parents, some teacher, some preacher, or some neighbor told you, "Hey, young man, what young lady, young girl, what do you want to be when you grow up?"
Right?
So They made you think. They
Right.
made you plan your future at a very early age. And you know what? I instilled in my three kids of mine and my parents, and still in my mind very early said, hey, Amos, why don't you consider being a preacher or teacher? You got to be a professor. That's what they gave to me. Tell somebody that when they ask you this question, what you want to be you grow up when you grow up. Tell them you want to be a professor. Tell them you want to be a preacher. Tell them you want to be a teacher. And you know what? At a very early age, I told you my answer was I want to be a professor. See,
Okay.
they had a principle that my parents and I looked up to, and
Okay.
that's what it was. And it's all about guiding and leading your kids
Exactly.
in the right way to go.
And as I was saying, I attended a one very, very beautiful occasion on this past Sunday at Marigrove College, put on by Loyola High School, and the faculty member who was in charge was Miss Katrina Gross, and their principal, Mr. Jones, who has been at our studio and been one of our guests also. What they did was put together a documentary film of about 20 women, African American women, and a few men in our city who have raised successfully black sons.
Okay.
And this is really a feat, in our city. And so the Loyola High School and the Michigan Council of Humanities sponsored it, put on these interviews, and I was a part of it, and I was, very delighted that I was asked, I was chosen to come and be interviewed on how, in fact, what are the steps that you must go through to produce a successful African American son in this day and time in a city like Detroit. With all of the killings and with all of the things that we read about and things that go on to tempt our young men. And many of them end up, you know, in prison, incarcerated. They make the wrong choices. And about, like I said, 20 of us were a part of this film, and it's called Never Alone in Detroit. They called us in, and we were honored on this past Sunday. And you can pull that up online, actually, and see it. Like I said, Miss Catherine Gross, Loyola High School, Detroit, was her project, and I was one of those people that are in the film, and you can, like I said, pull it up. There's a DVD of it, and I'm sure it's going to be a teaching mechanism um, throughout the world, because it is sponsored by uh, the Catholic, Archdiocese, film on Never Alone in Detroit. In other words, if there are a group of African American mothers and grandmothers and people that can do this great thing to raise successful sons in our city, there is hope for everyone.
You know what, Mr. Rod, and I like what you're talking and what you're saying. But it's still important to have a man in
Oh,
that
definitely.
boy's
Oh,
life.
definitely.
Women can only do so much. A woman, a mother, cannot teach a boy how to become a man.
Hmm.
Now, what is not happening is we are not teaching our young black men to be both respectful, obedient, and strong. Now, many ways we're teaching them how to be strong, but there's a humble and uh, righteous way to be strong. You see, you just don't be strong to be strong. There's a time to yield, and yielding or being humble is not weakness; it's in strength because God has to give you that gift of humming in such a way that you got to know when you get back up and back down.
Well,
And there's another time you got to have the judgment and the gift to know when to stand up and be strong. So this is what must be taught to our young black men, and you must teach them to have good judgment. And there's some norms that must be taught in the home to teach these men this is white America, and there's ways that a black boy must uh, carry himself such that they can survive this experience in America, the United States of America.
well, that's true. All of those things are true, and those things did come out in the film. Uh, that even though we didn't have maybe men in the home, we had to go out. We had to search our fathers, our uncles, our pastors, leaders in the community
But they were
to help.
available, Mr. Rod. They weren't absent. The men
Right.
in the family and community, in the environment, must
And
stand up and be counted and play their role in teaching and mentoring
exactly.
and counseling these young black men to lead and guide them in the right path, in the right way. That is not happening in present times of
But
today.
successfully, you know, there or are about at least 20 successful
You know
stories
what?
that were filmed, and I just need to read this
Okay.
uh, little memoir that was on back of the program, Never Alone in Detroit, in a city where 2 out of 3 women raising children
So
alone
sad,
are
Mr. Rod.
living below the poverty level. It takes great fortitude to maintain a family. Experience the unique stories of women raising young men in Detroit and realize the importance of never being alone. That's the important thing. It is a mental thing. Women can't give up, even though there's not always a man
One
present.
thing I want to tell you though, Mr. Rod, I got to insert this. There are some young women think that they don't need a man in that
Well,
home. I had a young lady. She had a boy, and every time she opened her mouth, she was cursing him out.
well,
And
Reverend Bush,
but you know what? And she
the
stated that I don't need a man.
I don't know about that,
And
but
that philosophy, that thing, it exists in the homes today. I don't know who instilled that in the mind. It had to be the devil, because I would not think that the matriarch, that mother, the rather the grandmother, the elderly mother, did hopefully didn't teach and guide that new young mother that that's the way
but
she should think.
this is what the film is all about, Reverend Bush, to
Okay.
point out to those young women who feel that way for whatever reason. Uh, you have to show the young man that there is some man in their life, or they can be in their life, that will help them. In the film, the
Have mercy,
17 women
Jesus.
and 2 young men share their stories of the challenges, the strength, support, hopes, and fears for their sons and grandsons living in the city. White Jones III and Gregory Summer, PhD, interviewed all of us actually, and it was a beautiful experience. And like I said, you can pull it up online, called Never Alone in Detroit. And we're never alone, really, and we shouldn't try to do it alone, because that's kind of
But
impossible.
you know, Mr. Rudd, I do believe that there are evil uh, people who took and over the years separated and destroyed the black family and the black men. And I was in a conversation one time with a professional peer of mine who was female. She told me that specifically here in Detroit that the elders, the men, didn't stand up and lead our community, because if the men are strong in a community, they can require the boys to stand down.
Exactly.
And
And
that is not happening enough. And you do it early,
what
constantly. Make the
what we
boys
need to do,
stand down. Get control of your home, your community, your city, and the men
what
got
we
to
need to
stand up.
do, what we need to
The
do.
men filled with God and of love, Mr. Rod.
And from each story, each interview, which I saw in the film, "You're Never Alone," "Never Alone in Detroit." Each woman was very strong in her faith with God. Each one of us said that, without the church, without God in their life and in their son's life, it just would not have happened. And so I want to, challenge those young women, no matter what age you are, old, young, grandmothers, aunties, moms that are raising sons alone. Make sure you are involved, with a church, a a um a church that you can take your son to, your family to, and get involved, because you can raise a successful son alone. And many times, like myself, I did not choose to be alone. Many times it's not our choice to be a widow, or for a dad to not want to be responsible, or for the child's father to end up incarcerated. That's not our choice, but we have to show our sons love. We have to show them respect. We have to let them know that they still must survive no matter what happens. This family must go on. And I was very, very proud to be a part of this film. And it was interdenominational people that sponsored it. And it is very, historic, something that will go down in history. And like I said, you can get it online. It's called Never Alone in Detroit.
But it's back to being close to God, Mr. Rod. I don't care what you said.
Mm.
The men, the
Well, that's
men,
what came
the
out.
men, the black men, they were strayed away from God. And look at what has happened to the black family. It has come apart. You need two parents in the home to make a strong black family
Well,
to help lead. And I know that women can't control if their man doesn't exist, if he refuses to stand up and be counted, if he refuses to be the father.
exactly.
But you don't give up on finding someone to take his place. There is a male in the family or in the community that should step up,
And actually,
and that used to happen, but it's not happening today, and that's the reason we do have a problem, Mr. Roy. But the
wow.
churches, the leaders in the churches, from the pastor on down, must stand up. They said they called by God, then they need to walk out on faith and act and play the role.
Well, that's true, and that's what it's all about. So, if in
Living the
fact,
life of a godly man.
if in
That's what
fact,
they must do. You
you
show
need,
by the works that you do.
if
You
in
say you're God,
fact,
you go out and do the job that God called you to do.
you need a teaching mechanism, be it in your church, your school, or your community, look up that documentary called Never Alone in Detroit, and it will help you. To go on, the BHRSC Inc. Free GED prep tutoring and Motor City after school summer programs will start on June the 27th at the Hubbard Library. Make sure your child is involved in something positive this summer. Make a plan, and there are other activities, other educational outlets for your son. And we'll be letting you know each week more things, updating that in our city. Also, save the date. Hartford Women United presents a fun, fabulous, and fashionable luncheon and fashion show, and that's going to be at the Hartford Memorial Baptist Church, 18700 James Cousin, and that's on June the 18th, 11 a.m. to 2. Dr. Charles G. Adams, pastor, Reverend Charles Christian Adams presiding, and that's a fun thing to attend. So you can call the church to secure your tickets or tables, or you want to be a vendor, any of those things. Call Hartford Okay, June 11. They're having a children's tea. Tea is instant knowledge for you. And they're having a tea party at the Detroit Public Library. Come on out, enjoy, bring your children. They are going to teach etiquette, teen services, incorporated with a Detroit Public Library. Phone number 313-481-1360 or 61, and it is free. That's a good activity that you can join. Also, speaking of getting your children involved, you know, for the summer, there are many camps out there that are involved with Detroit Parks and Recreation Department, and you can call and find out more information. 313-224-1100. And some of the camps will be held at Adams Butzel, Clemente, Crowell, Hellman, Lasky, Patton, Williams Recreation, and Young Recreation Center. They will all have programs ages 6 through 12. And I do believe Marigold College always has a summer program,
Mr. Rod,
DAPSEP, and all these places. So don't let your child be out there wandering around, getting in trouble while you're
that
at
is
work.
right, parents. You must get your child mentally and physically involved and occupied during the summer. Even though school is out, that child needs to have something to do to occupy their time in a positive way.
Exactly. And one other, I think, really important thing that I picked up that I think our listening audience, looking audience, should know about. It's called Black Lives Matter. Stop the devastation of black lives caused by table salt. You know, so many people in the black community, especially Black America, Reverend Bush, use too much salt.
We do.
You know,
And
and why this? I don't
well,
know. Maybe it's
it's a
hereditary.
habit, and it's through our upbringing, Mr. Rod, and how our parents were taught in their habits. Uh, there is a substitute for salt, viewing artists, ladies and gentlemen, and children. Uh, you can use the dash, or better still, you can use lemon juice, and spices. You can squeeze lemon juice over a salad or a meat or a dish, or you can cook using spices to seasoning as a substitute for sodium chloride, or so our calcium chloride, but usually it's sodium chloride that we use in food. So that can substitute, because there's some negative things that the salt does to the body. It makes the body retain too much water.
Well, this article is specifically targeted to Black Americans, and they say salt is a silent killer,
Yes, it
and
is.
we just pile it on for whatever reason.
But there's another one also, Mr. Rod. Sugar is almost as bad as salt. And
Well,
we in the black community eat too much sweets, too many desserts.
well, the article is about salt, and on Saturday, June 11th, 2016, 1 to 2, in the Friends Conference Room at the main library. Dr. Nevada is the director of cardiac ca- cardiac surgery at Springfield Regional Medical Center in Ohio, and has performed more than 10,000 cardiac and vascular surgeries since 1983, and is known for his expertise in beating heart surgery, valves repairs, and invasive lung resections. So it is really serious. We're eating too much salt. We need to put the shaker down and learn how we can live longer, because salt kills. And if you want to attend this event, you may call 313-481-1391, and it is also free.
You know what, Mr. Rod? I'd like to add one thing. We as adults, especially blacks, minorities, need to be more conscientious relative to controlling our weight. You know, look at, compare what your weight was when you graduated from high school versus what your weight is now. Usually, when you were in high school, you were more close to an optimum weight then than you are now. And if you are over 15 pounds greater than the weight you were in high school, then you probably have too much weight on that body that God bless you with, and you need to have it as a goal to uh, try to reduce to that weight you were in high school as close as you can, and possibly not over 15 to 20 pounds above the weight you were in high school, if possible.
Well, I want to switch gears here and
Okay.
talk about our presidential election
Let's talk about it, Mr. Rod,
that's
because
coming up.
it's them things that are really going crazy
It
out
really is.
there. I thought the people were, some of the candidates were a bit unstable, but they're carrying it to another level. They, instead of getting better or staying constant, they are getting worse and worse. Some of the candidates, or one of them in particular, are getting worse and worse and worse.
Well,
I can't understand it. What
uh,
did this this world,
the
this
main
United
thing,
States grow up? I mean, how did they come up with these two candidates that are really come from the
the
extreme?
main
Some of them.
thing is we want to point out to each and every person out there and our listening and looking
Hmm.
uh, audience. Make sure you know that you are registered to vote. We can't tell you, you know, which person to vote for.
Well, I can give them the honest, Mr. Rod.
We
You
can
get you choose somebody who's gonna help you and your viewpoints and
exactly.
and your agenda, not their agenda.
And you know it's strange, but you know when I'm listening to the candidates, I can't really pick out you know anything that they're promising, you know, specifically for urban America. I just don't see that. And we do know that you know Hillary
Well, I
Clinton is
disagree,
running.
Mr. Rod, and I'll talk to that later.
It's
But
okay.
there's a difference.
Well,
If you really go in depth, you can see
what
that you got
what
people
is
going in opposite
what
directions,
is the
the major
agenda?
candidates.
What is the agenda for African Americans? You know, what are they going to do for big problem of Social Security?
Well,
Because they say maybe in 20 years that's going to
well,
disappear. I haven't heard
you know what,
anything from either one of
Mr.
them
Rod?
talk about that.
If they help the working class, the working people, they help blacks, okay? Because we are the working class and the poor on the majority.
Well,
That's
that
the
you
majority.
might say
So
that.
we want them to have an agenda to assist working people
Well,
and the poor, okay?
well, I'm glad you added the poor in there because that's one of our problems as African Americans is you know the huge unemployment
Well,
list that we suffer.
and that's the reason why we need education. And I guess you got to look at what's happening in the state of Michigan. The governor and the legislature, ever since they've been in office, have cut education budget for the people, the residents here in the state of Michigan. That's going the wrong way. There's a need to increase the budget for education, but they are cutting it instead. So
Well,
that's sad.
one thing I can say, the Democratic uh, candidate believes in pay equity for women. Uh, you know that you should get the same pay as a man does
If you're doing the same
if you're
job,
doing
Mr.
the
Rod.
same job. And she also believes in the Affordable, you know, Care Act,
But you
which
just told me they about the same, Mr. Rudd. I disagree. There's a major difference between Mr. Trump
I didn't
and
say that.
Madam Hillary Clinton,
No, I did not say that. What I'm
and
saying,
even Mr. Sanders, Bernie Sanders.
I'm
You
saying
know,
that
there's differences that exist.
I'm
You were saying
saying
they were quite
what
similar, Mr. Rudd.
I didn't say that, Reverend Bush.
Okay, let's clarify.
Okay, back up.
Okay,
I'm
back
saying
it up.
we don't have enough things targeting the African American community. Now, as far as
We gotta help ourselves, Mr. Rod, by going to school and learning instead of acting the clown in the class.
well, okay, but it's hard to pull yourself up by your bootstraps when you don't
Well,
even
it
have boots.
starts in the home.
If you don't
They
have
got
boots,
kids in Africa that don't have clothes, don't have boots. They're going barefoot, and they're learning, Mr. Rod. Go to
well,
Africa, you'll find out.
we don't know about Africa. We know
Miss
about
Winfrey,
Detroit.
Miss Oprah Winfrey has shown us that. Okay.
She's a billionaire.
Well, but she has students in schools that are very successful over there in Africa. Okay. And the kids are learning. Why they can learn and our kids living in Detroit can't learn. There's a
Well,
problem there. That's a contradiction.
it's all about funding, Reverend Bush.
But they don't have all the money
It's
over in
all
Africa, Miss Rhoda. Look at the buildings
it,
they're in.
it's all about funding.
Oh, you gotta
It's
have books though, you Miss
it's
Rhoda.
very
And you
very
gotta have competent teachers. I don't deny that.
and you have to have an environmental building environment for learning.
But the home and the child must have the mindset
It's very
of positive
difficult.
learning with the intent and goal
It's
to learn,
it's
Miss Rhoda.
very difficult to learn if you are in a school building and water's dripping down on you, or it's cold, it's no
Now
heat,
you right
you do
about
not
that,
have
Miss Rhoda.
resources,
I agree
or
with you there.
there
There.
are rodents in the classroom. And
Well, you blame the governor and
I
his
have
leadership
had
team.
I have
They
had
took over our
had
school system and
teachers
created this
to
madness.
tell me that this is still a problem. It has not
You
been
better believe it's a
solved.
problem. It's not positive learning environment.
Well, get back to voting, because we do want you to get out there and register so you can vote. Be it for Hillary
Don't
Clinton.
register, not vote. If you register, always vote. And those of you who have not registered, you're doing some wrong things for yourself and everybody else. You need to get your act together and go register.
And you have to like kind of tune out, all these I guess crazy things that you hear
Yeah, like
on
the vote, my vote won't count. No, it won't count if you don't vote,
all
Mr.
these
Rod.
crazy things you hear on TV coming from a candidate talking about uh, people's personal lives.
Okay.
Okay, we have to look over that. We got to be smart.
Now that's a
Again,
sickness, Mr. Rod. That's a mental handicap that some of these candidates have. They can't talk the issues. They have to attack
and
the,
this
the
is what
person's
we're waiting for.
personality and the person themselves. That's sad, and that's why should you choose and vote for a candidate who can't talk intellectually in a
Or
professional
or,
manner and
or talk
have a platform that you can evaluate
exactly that you can
and
understand,
understand.
or talk about immigrants, rounding them all up and shipping them out, or
He's an entertainer. He's not a president candidate material, Mr. Rock. That's all he is. He's entertaining. Let him stay where he is on the TV
well,
show, not in the
hopefully
White House.
hopefully our country can look through all of these fallacies,
He's a mental midget, Mr. Rock. Tell
and
it like it is.
make
He's not
sure
a giant.
make
He's a
sure
midget
that
intellectually.
you vote for the right
And he likes
person,
to climb
because it's going to affect all of
and
us.
just personally attack others.
And it's not all about money. People might have money to get where they want to
But
be,
that's
but
not professional what he
is
does.
it going to be good for us? So make
Let him
sure
go in the ghetto and do something crazy like that. He might not live to get walk out.
make sure that your vote counts, and counts for the right person, and your vote is going to do something in your neighborhood. And you do have time to search it out, see what uh, each candidate is about. Our election is not until November, so do your homework. Also, this is Mental Health Month. May is Mental Health Month, and we have many people in our community, the black community, all communities, Reverend Bush, who are suffering from mental illness. Many homeless people today uh, got that way because of mental problems
Some
that they
ingested the
couldn't.
wrong kind of chemical, Mr. Roy. Some of them
This
ate
is
the
true.
wrong food. Some of them did something wrong somewhere in their life. It just didn't happen by itself. And then some of it comes from heredity, Mr. Roy.
From this report, and I saw it in the Michigan Chronicle, the Community Network Services supports, mental health month this month, and they say approximately 27% of adults have a mental illness in any given year. So, and we know, we see it in our families. Just make sure that they are getting their uh, right
There is
meds.
treatment out there to control
Exactly.
that problem. And those of you who know have a relative, or if you have that problem, you need to seek help.
And so many of our people, young and old, are committing suicide. I know we had a young minister, a beautiful young woman
Well,
that we know of, who actually took her own life last year, and she was just headed for greatness, and we were left in a state of shock. But
yes.
make sure, if you have a relative, you see there's problems, make sure that they get some kind of help.
You know, Mr. Rod, a lot of that, in most instances, that happens to people who are loners. They don't associate with
Could be.
others, and whatever problem they're having, they don't share it with others
Many
because
people.
uh, there are many problems that of life's challenges that you're faced with, and even though you might know God and He knows you, you still need help from others. It's about loving
Hmm.
your neighbor also, and showing love, and sharing love. And if you don't do that, then you get isolated in an island all by yourself.
Just make sure, if you have a family member that needs that help, they can get it. Don't let them feel like they're out there alone, because you don't have to be. The um
Because you're gonna have some mountains to climb in your
mhm,
life, Mr. Roy.
mhm.
You're gonna have some have mercy, some storms you gotta go through, and they're gonna challenge your faith. They're gonna challenge these storms,
Oh,
and challenge. You're
categorically.
gonna challenge your mental stability. So you got to be strong in God
And I
and
wanted to
strong in yourself to survive these challenges, these storms.
give this number out again. CNS Community Network Services. If you have a family member, friend, relative, community person that needs help, be it a child, young adult, older person, call 800 615 0411, or you can go online, visit www.cnsmi.org.
And sometimes, Mr. Roy, you might just not have to give that number to them. Sometimes you have to participate in the process of carrying them to seek help.
That's
You might
true.
go with them, or carry them with you to make sure they get the help they need to solve their problem.
And we all are excited about that Detroit City Council approving that municipal card and ID for people that are in our city, uh, Dearborn, people who are immigrants and don't have or didn't have any ID. Uh, Raquel Lopez, who's on the city council, was responsible
That is
for
good.
creating this ID. And actually, I
Yes.
was in a public building this past week
That's a sign of
and
love, Mr. Roy.
saw
Caring for
some
others.
immigrants actually starting the process to
Yes.
sign up for this card, so they possibly can get a driver's license, or an apartment or a house. I mean, it's just
Yes.
so many things you need an ID for. Even social services, you need an address.
We'd like to commend that council lady who took the lead on that,
Hmm.
and we'd like to commend the body of the council that assisted and
Hmm.
approved that item.
One of the big thing that happened this week, and we'll probably talk about that more next week. Detroit School Board holds a meeting, a public
Yeah, how
meeting this
about that?
past
That's a good
week,
thing.
and it was held on May 18th. And our transitional manager, Judge Rhodes, appeared for the first time with the school board. They had a public meeting,
Yes, Jesus.
and what they are at what the school board is asking for. President Herman Davis asked Judge Rhodes for a forensic audit on the Detroit public schools. School district is being run now by the state of Michigan at present, and the community, the school board, students and parents, want to know, where did our money go?
Well, Mr. Rod, I'd like to challenge the judge to be fair, objective, and just in doing his job. Now, many people who sit in positions like he's sitting in have private agendas, or they have somebody who's directing them what to do and how to do it. I hope God is directing this honorable judge, not man.
Well, Judge Rhodes said he just made it clear that he will supply the records, for the audit, but the school board would have to come up with the funding. So we'll talk more about that next week,
Yes, we will.
because it's real important, and I think a audit is something that we
We
need.
need to know what happened. We need to understand the paper trail, Mr. Rod. And
Hmm.
there is a paper trail.
Thank you, Mr. Herman Davis, president of our Detroit School Board, for seeking out that forensic audit.
Keep up the good work, Mr. Davis.
And at this time, we're going to say, we'll see you next week, making it happen,
This
taking action,
is
bringing
making it
you up
happen.
on news.